Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday morning. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. It is great to be back. Big thanks to Dr. Crane, Parker Kelly, Connor Newt. I know Brandon Bigsby held it down a little bit on Friday as well. Appreciate everybody filling in as I was gone, but I am glad to be back. How's it going, Dr. Crane?
Glad to see you, Jake Lyman. It just feels right. You know what I mean?
I was saying to you, I need to shake the rust off a little bit. I got through the intro there all right. So, I think we'll be okay, but 11 days, I think, between shows. So I've got a little bit of rust to shake off, but we should be okay.
Yeah, you'll be all right. I mean, you missed a little bit. And then, like Rexrod mentioned before the end of Robbie and Rexrod, Tigers got some issues, but minus that, I think everything's peachy here in Nashville.
Yeah, it was nice to be on my honeymoon and not have to watch the Tigers be horrible for a week. They finally got a win. I thought they were going to go winless the whole week I was gone, but they did. Gage Workman with his first career home run helped them beat the Royals back on Sunday night. So what are you going to do? Half the team's injured. It's early. It's still only May. We got lots to get into today. Anything I missed that you what's been the buzz while I've been gone? I've been trying to listen in a little bit so I'm not completely out of it. And I've tried to keep up on Twitter, but what did I miss?
I mean, not much. I mean, Carnell Tate signed that fully guaranteed rookie deal.
Yeah.
I think soccer related, Nashville was eliminated from CONCACAF Champions
right.
Cup.
I did see that.
The NCAA tournament expanded to 76 teams.
I was here for that, or I was here when they said they were finalizing it.
Yeah.
So
they officially finalized.
I heard that you and Corey got into it on Wednesday
for an hour.
I need to go back and listen to that before tomorrow.
It will not be a waste of your time.
Okay, I will go back and listen to it before Corey comes in tomorrow. I'm excited for that as well. I did see yesterday the Titans announced some staffing changes. They made a hire and 17 promotions. And I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I did see that Bryce Wasserman, his new title is Football Counsel and Head of Football Research. And I know that it was speculated that maybe when Chad Brinker decided to move on, that Bryce Wasserman, who he's the son-in-law of Amy Adams Strunk, might get that boost into that president of football operations role. I know Paul Kuharski was talking about that a little bit with Robbie and Rexrod. So he doesn't have that title, but I do wonder with that, Football Counsel and Head of Football Research, do a lot of the responsibilities that Chad Brinker had now fall to Bryce Wasserman?
100%. This is just another Titans trying to pull a fast one. It's like going back to the Roman Empire and using their terminology of just different types of verbiage. That's all it is. It's a bunch of word puzzling. I mean, come on. Let's get to the point of it. He's taking over Chad Brinker's job, and they're just giving him a different job title.
Yeah, I feel like they probably knew what the optics would look like if Amy Adams Strunk elevated her son-in-law into the president of football operations. But I think it does show you that they were blowing smoke a little bit last year when they said, oh, well, the job split up the responsibilities. And I'm sure that some of Chad Brinker's responsibilities are going back to Mike Borgonzi, and I'm sure that some of them are going to Bryce Wasserman. But it was blowing smoke a little bit when they were saying, oh, the job's too big for one person. I honestly kind of think it's right. I think it is good to take some of the non-personnel decisions away from the GM. Let the GM do the most important job that he's tasked with, which is picking the players. But, clearly it wasn't that big of a deal if, as of now, they have not promoted or hired somebody to take over the full bulk of Chad Brinker's role.
Yeah, hearing the Football Counsel title, it just trying not to bring up the word again, but collaboration from previous regimes. That's all it is. Football Counsel is an umbrella for collaboration with the front office. That's what it is for me. I don't know about for you.
Yeah, the collaboration era is now officially over. I feel like that started on the day Rand Carthon was hired, and it ended with Chad Brinker stepping down. It's now the Borgo and Sala show, and we'll see how it works out. Dustin from Hopkinsville says, Daboll loves Will Levis. That's all you missed.
That is true.
I did see that, and I'm getting a little worried that I'm going to have to eat some serious crow. I already had to eat some of it when he wasn't traded during the draft. I still would not understand why you keep Will Levis. I will say, why would you sign Mitch Trubisky to that deal if you felt like Will Levis could be your backup?
That's fair.
That was my thought. But also, Daboll isn't going to go up and say, this guy kind of sucks. We're excited to trade him when we get the opportunity. No one's given us an offer we like yet. Like, he's going to go up there and he's going to say good things. But yeah, I did see that. And I've been seeing some reporting that maybe the sides have started to cool a little bit on the Levis and Titans front. And maybe there is a chance that he sticks around. I still think he's gone, but I'm preparing myself.
Yeah, you have to go through each little phase here. Phase one is, if he does well in preseason and also training camp, whatever it may be, you then see what he can do in the next phase. And the next phase is put him into a bunch of preseason games. If he does well there, you're probably going to have some phone calls. If those phone calls come in saying, hey, we want to trade XYZ, you say sure. If there's no phone calls that come through, you keep them on. And again, that Mitchell Trubisky contract's a 2-year deal. Majority of that's front loaded. I think it's like guaranteed $6 million. Or $8 million total or something like that, including the signing bonus. So it's a total of a $10 million deal for 2 years. So majority of that's front loaded. So after this first season with the Titans, if they decide to maybe option out of that second year, and let's say Daboll decides to move on, the Titans are now in a comfortable position to say, hey, Will Levis, you're still on our roster. Would you want to be the backup at that point? I think that's the last phase of this entire storyline for Will Levis with the Titans.
Yeah, I don't understand it because he's not under contract for next year. And Will Levis is not going to re-sign here when he knows he has zero shot of being the starting quarterback. Will Levis wants to go to a place where he's going to have an opportunity to start. So I think it makes more sense for both sides to send him somewhere where he will be developed under a team that may need to use him later on. The Rams was the name we brought up a ton, obviously, after drafting Ty Simpson in the first round. That's no longer really a starter. So we'll see. It's not a huge storyline this offseason because I look at this roster and say they're probably going to keep at least three. They're keeping 3 running backs. I would say they're going to keep either 4 running backs or they're going to keep 4 tight ends. And I'd rather keep guys who can help on special teams than keep a third quarterback just for the sake of keeping Will Levis around. So you're right. It is going to depend a lot on what he does in the preseason. Can he go and show out? And maybe again, we've said this with TD, you don't want to root for anybody to get injured, but it does happen that a team's quarterback could go down in training camp or in the preseason, and maybe Will Levis's value goes up at that point. I thought that you should have just taken what you could have gotten for him during the draft and cut ties. But maybe the risk ends up paying off and he does play well in the preseason and you can get a 4th instead of a 6th or something like that. So,
it's possible. I just looking at where Brian Daboll has been previously with the Giants and the Bills, any offensive system, he's always had 3 quarterbacks. Like, go back to Buffalo, he had Trubisky, Kyle Allen, and Josh Allen. You go to New York, it was Tommy DeVito, Jameis Winston, and Jackson Dart. And also with Daniel Jones, you had Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, and I think Jameis Winston before.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Last year they had Jackson Dart, Russell Wilson, and Jameis Winston all together.
Forgot about Russ. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe they want to keep 3, and the emergency quarterback rule, I think it's overblown because they still have to take up a spot on the 53. You can't call them up off the practice squad roster and then have them be dressed on game day as the emergency third quarterback. They still have to take up a spot on your 53-man roster. So yes, it takes away a spot from your 46 on game days, but it still takes up a spot on your roster that could go to somebody else. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I knew our man Robert was going to text in as soon as we started talking about Will Levis. He says, you sign him for the mentoring, and Will Levis hasn't proven one way or the other what he is. So you keep him and let them compete. Competition brings out the best in players. Robert, go rewatch the 2024 season. We saw what Will Levis is in that season. He's not going to be the quarterback here, but I again, at this point, he's here. They're going to let him compete, and we'll see what he can do. And Dustin from Hopkinsville says, why would it be the worst thing if we had 2 badass young quarterbacks? Why don't fans want that? Well, Dustin, he's going to leave at the end of this season for nothing. I would rather trade him and get a pick back, but we'll see. We'll see. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We are not going to spend all show on this. I had a thought over the last week, and I know we spent a lot of time talking about Carnell Tate. He is going to be one of the most watched players on this team because a lot of people believed you reached a little bit to get him at number 4. And he has to be a wide receiver 1. What does a wide receiver 1 typically look like in a Brian Daboll offense? I went back and looked at a few years of what the targets look like, the catches, the production. And I think the Titans believe Carnell Tate can be one of 2 players for a Brian Daboll type offense. And we will get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025. We are off and running on this Tuesday morning. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up. 1025 The Game. The 615 Open Golf Tournament might be sold out, but you can bid on all kinds of awesome experiences to directly support Folds of Honor at 615open.com/auction. Have an unforgettable time while supporting a great cause. 615open.com/auction. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, the boys are back today. Glad to be back, and we are talking Titans to lead off the show. Carnell Tate, 4th overall pick, of course, is going to have high expectations heading into his rookie season. The hope is, when you take a guy like that he is going to be the running mate, the wide receiver 1 for Cam Ward. So with Brian Daboll as your offensive coordinator, I wanted to look back and see what his offenses typically look like in terms of target share and what his wide receivers are asked to do. And the one year that we have brought up in the past, Nick, was the 2024 Giants team, where they had a rookie top 10 pick wide receiver in Malik Nabers. Rookie season in 15 games, Malik Nabers had 109 catches on 170 targets, 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, with Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, and Tommy DeVito throwing him the football. Wan'Dale Robinson had 140 targets, 93 catches, and 700 yards. And then Darius Slayton was third on the team with 71 targets, 39 receptions, 573 yards. I look at that trio, and I think that's kind of what Brian Daboll wants in his offense. He wants a true wide receiver 1 who's going to get a heavy target share and is going to be asked to do a lot, whether that's move the chains on 3rd down, make big plays over the top. Then a slot receiver like a Wan'Dale Robinson. Funny enough, you have Wan'Dale Robinson now. And then a big play threat. Darius Slayton averaged nearly 15 yards a catch in 2024. So there are these trends that I looked at and saw, all right, 2024, they didn't really have a quarterback, but they had those 3 wide receivers. I looked back a little further to his final year as the offensive coordinator with the Buffalo Bills. Stephon Diggs, 103 catches, 164 targets, 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. Cole Beasley, 112 targets, 82 catches, 700 yards, 8.5 yards per catch. Same as Wan'Dale Robinson, short yardage slot receiver. And then Emmanuel Sanders, 42 catches, 72 targets, 15 yards per catch. I think that's what they want, and I think there are 3 pretty obvious guys I look for that are going to be those types of players. Carnell Tate needs to be your wide receiver 1. Of course, Wan'Dale Robinson is your Wan'Dale Robinson slot type guy. And then I think Chimdike can be your big play threat down the field for maybe not a ton of catches, but he's going to make the most of the ones he does get.
Interesting. I thought you were going to mention Calvin Ridley. I really did.
I think Calvin Ridley is here more to be a veteran presence. And, you hope that he's going to give you a decent amount on the field. But he took a $15 million pay cut to be here. I think he realized that he wasn't going to get much more on the open market. He's going to be 32 this year. So I think Calvin Ridley is going to be there to be kind of a safety blanket for some of the younger guys and to give Cam Ward a veteran guy in the room. But I do think that those are the 3 prototypical players that Brian Daboll wants in his type of offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the trends that you brought up there with Emmanuel Sanders, Darius Slayton, those are more the veteran guys out of those trios and those teams that were set.
Yeah.
So that's why I was leaning.
Maybe it could be Calvin Ridley.
Maybe Calvin Ridley, right? And you mentioned the rookie year from Malik Nabers in 2024 in New York. It's interesting to look at his numbers because his yak yards, 462 out of his, 1,200 total
yards, yeah.
It's interesting to look at that because that is Brian Daboll saying, I want targets for my rookie wide receiver. So it makes you wonder, what is the target share going to look like for a guy like Carnell Tate? Obviously, having all that guaranteed money over this past weekend, you want to know, what is the target share going to look like for him?
Yeah, I don't know if we can count on Carnell Tate to get 170 targets like Malik Nabers got, and Stephon Diggs in that 2021 season got 164 targets. I think that is a little bit high, but I also do think he is going to be the number 1 receiver in terms of who Cam Ward is going to look for by the end of the season. Maybe it doesn't start that way. Rookies it takes a little bit of time to get their feet wet. Although Ohio State receivers we've seen have done a better job of that. I do think that Calvin Ridley may start week 1, but by the end of the year, I think they'd love for Calvin Ridley to have faded back into a reserve role and have your young guys being the ones leading the way, because Calvin Ridley's not going to be on this team next year. You hope that you head into next season with a top 4 wide receivers of Carnell Tate, Wan'Dale Robinson, Chim Dike, Alec Iamaner. And it's like, all right, that can be our core for Cam Ward moving forward. Calvin Ridley, yeah, he's going to be nice to have as a veteran presence in that room. But if this team is successful, I think Calvin Ridley isn't getting that many targets down the stretch this season.
Yeah, that makes logical sense. And then when it comes to Alec Iamaner, I'm not trying to look too far into the future here, Jake, but say when Calvin Ridley is off this roster, would I assume Alec step into that role where Calvin's at currently?
Alec Iamaner is an interesting one to me. I was looking, he led the team in targets last year with 89, but he caught less than half of the balls thrown his way. I just think with Alec Iamaner, you need to see more consistency. We saw the flashes. We saw some of the great catches that he was able to make as a rookie. Even right off the bat, made the one-handed catch against his shoulder. That was against the Rams. And then a couple plays later, made the catch on the throwback for Cam Ward's first touchdown. Like Alec Iamaner, you've seen the flashes of what he can be, but it just was not consistent, especially through the middle part of his rookie season. I think you draft Carnell Tate because you don't truly believe Alec Iamaner is going to end up being one of your guys moving forward. But I think you also believe that he can get better, and hopefully he develops into a wide receiver 3, maybe even a wide receiver 2, but he was never going to be your wide receiver 1.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of optimism for a guy like Alec Iamaner because those flashes make me feel like he's put in the work this past offseason to where, or I guess current offseason that is, to where he can be not just, your perennial wide receiver, but the wide receiver 3 you're talking about. I think there is a lot of optimism and upside for a guy like Iamaner in this offense. I really do.
I think Iamaner is a guy that you look at as this year is a really important year for him to step up, because if he doesn't show that he is going to be a factor moving forward, you can replace him, whether that's with a veteran in free agency or a mid-round draft pick. Alec Iamaner is different from Chim Dike. Chim Dike is going to have a spot on this team because as of now, he's proven to be an elite returner. And even if he ends up just being an average NFL wide receiver, being an elite returner just gives you so much more value. For Alec Iamaner, if he's just an average receiver, you can find just an average receiver in other places. And for Alec Iamaner, I think this is a big year for him to prove his value to this team. And maybe he does. I think you look at some of these Brian Daboll offenses. I talked about that 2021 Bills team. Gabe Davis was their wide receiver 4 that year. And I think Gabe Davis has a lot of similar abilities as Alec Iamaner. That year, Davis, 35 catches on 63 targets, 549 yards. So big average per catch. And he scored 6 touchdowns. Like if Alec Iamaner can put up a season like that, I think that's a big success for him in year 2.
And that's a trajectory I'm kind of leaning towards, because you look at this wide receiver core, they just seem like a red zone threat across the board. Like, yes, Chim Dike can be your, I guess, secondary yak yards guy,
right?
Like Wan'Dale Robinson in the slot. But you get inside the 20-yard line in the red zone, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have Alec Iamaner aiming for one corner of the end zone, Carnell Tate aiming for another corner of the end zone, and maybe even Calvin Ridley making some contested catches in the end zone. To me, when you have those high point wide receivers that can go up and get the ball, that's kind of what you need with a, quarterback and Cam Ward, a guy that can just, facilitate the ball and just improvise. And I think that's something you can look at going forward.
And a lot of it does depend on Cam Ward, right? He's going to have to be able to deliver the football to these receivers. But I think you see, based on the way Brian Daboll has run his offenses in the past, it's going to look a lot different than last year. Last year, Chigakonkwo led the team in receiving with 560 yards and 56 catches. And I mentioned Iamaner had the most targets. 2 years ago, it was pretty similar under Brian Callahan for the full season, where Calvin Ridley did get 120 targets, but he only caught 64 of those passes. And then beyond that, Nick Westbrook-Akine was second on the team in receiving with 497 yards. You're going to see more volume in the passing game. And I think specifically targeted at those 2 players, you're going to see a lot of targets for Wan'Dale Robinson and a lot of targets for Carnell Tate. And then you're going to see big plays down the field to guys like Chim Dike and Alec Iamaner. I think that's the way that Brian Daboll wants his offense to look, just based on what we've seen when his teams have been successful in the past.
Yeah, the conversation I brought up Friday was the A-dot receiver, average depth of target.
Yeah.
And for Carnell Tate at Ohio State, it was 14.8 for an average. Roughly, the NFL's average is like 12.7 to 12.9.
Right.
I'm sure there will be a little bit of a dip because of the difference in play from college to NFL.
It's harder to throw the ball downfield in the pros than it is in college.
Exactly. So I'm curious to see how that translates for Carnell Tate, because look, if he's still able to get separation against defenders, this is another reason why you pick him at number 4. That I think guaranteeing that money, and I said this to Brandon and also Connor, guaranteeing that money to a rookie wide receiver for the Titans, it shows promise and direction that they're confident this guy is going to produce.
Yeah, clearly by taking him at number 4, they believe he is going to be a guy like we just talked about. Like, I know Malik Neighbors has only played 1 full season. He got hurt last year, but I think everybody heading into this year feels confident Malik Neighbors is a true wide receiver 1. Stephon Diggs was not a top 5 pick. He was, a 5th round pick out of Maryland? But it became pretty clear early on that he was a guy when he was with Minnesota, and then when Brian Daboll got him in Buffalo. They're different types of receivers. Like Carnell Tate's a little bit bigger than both of those guys, maybe a little bit slower than both of those guys. But I think Brian Daboll looked and said, Carnell Tate can be the prototypical outside receiver that I want in my offense. And clearly the plan, based on what we've seen from the stats in the past, is to feed that guy. Going to be up to Cam Ward to be able to deliver.
There's one name you have not mentioned, which I love, and we're talking about the wide receivers, Gunnar Helm. You mentioned Jake Lyman being one of the top receivers last year for this team. Gunnar Helm is a sneaky option for this team this upcoming season.
Let's dive into him next. We can look at some of the previous tight end stats for Brian Daboll offenses and see how he likes to use those guys. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And all of our football offseason coverage is brought to you by Tennessee Brewworks. Locally brewed, community-driven Tennessee Brewworks, the official craft beer of the football offseason coverage on ESPN 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on your Tuesday morning. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Boxing fans, 102.5 The Game and Team Boxing League have your chance to win tickets to see Nashville Smash take on the Boston Butchers at Municipal Auditorium on Saturday, May 23rd. 16 rounds and 16 fighters each go at it for one round of nonstop action. Text the keyword FIGHT, F-I-G-H-T, to the Game text line at 615-737-1025 to enter for your chance to win. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. We are looking through the Titans offense under Brian Daboll and what the wide receivers, what their target share is going to look like, the downfield passing game. And I was just searching year by year, and they're not all the same. Injuries, like last year for the Giants. Obviously, it wasn't going to look the same after Malik Neighbors tears his ACL. You lose that key piece that's going to allow Brian Daboll to call the offense the way that he wants to. But the 2024 Giants and the 2021 Buffalo Bills, I thought had just strikingly similar target shares for their number one, their slot guy. And Wes from Hermitage on the text line says, Chim is just the Titans' Cole Beasley. Nothing flashy, but throw him the ball and he'll catch it. Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be the Titans' Cole Beasley this year. Like, that is going to be the role that he is going to play. The stats from the 2021 Bills were Beasley had 82 catches on 112 targets, 8.5 yards per catch. And Wan'Dale Robinson 2 years ago, 93 receptions on 140 targets, 7.5 yards per catch. So a little more volume for Wan'Dale Robinson, a little bit less production per catch, but that's going to be the role that they're going to play. You mentioned Gunnar Helm. And I will say, tight ends are not typically super overly utilized in a Brian Daboll offense, at least based on what I've seen. Like the Bills, you look back, Dawson Knox, 49 catches on 71 targets, 587 yards, did have 9 touchdowns. I do think Gunnar Helm is going to be a red zone threat for this team. But 2 years ago, like Theo Johnson was their top tight end, 29 catches, 43 targets, 331 yards. I think a lot of it also just depends on the talent that you have. Maybe Gunnar Helm is closer to a Dawson Knox than he is a Theo Johnson. He's going to produce more. But I also don't think we're going to see Gunnar Helm suddenly be a 1,000-yard guy at tight end. I still think he's going to end up being like last year. He had, like 400-something yards?
Gunnar Helm, I just had it up.
44 catches, 357 yards. Yep. I think he'll do more than that this year, but I also don't think we should expect a triple jump where he's like second on the team in receiving with 900 yards, because Brian Daboll in the past, you look back at his teams, the tight end hasn't exactly been a superstar. It's been a complementary piece to the wide receivers that you have.
Yeah, I mean, last season he he was third on the team for yak yards at 159. So out of those 357 yards, 303 of those, or 303 of those was in the air.
Yeah, he was not crazy. A downfield guy. It was mostly get the ball to Gunnar Helm, he'll make a play. And I really do like Gunnar Helm this season, but I do think you look at what Brian Daboll's done in the past, and the tight end has been a cog in the machine, but he's not going to be Travis Kelce or George Kittle.
Right. No, not at all. And also, too, you mentioned the red zone threat earlier of like a Buffalo Bills style offense. It makes you wonder with Daniel Bellinger as more of a blocking tight end, if the Titans go 12 personnel, if that's a little bit of a tell of if you have Helm on one side and Bellinger on the other, could that be more of a more lenient towards a guy like Gunnar Helm in the red zone? Or are they going to kind of, pivot and go towards a wide receiver? Again, that's why I emphasize that that introductory press conference with Brian Daboll and how he's disguising his offense. I think it's going to be fun to watch this fall.
Well, and I think you mentioned one thing with the red zone of the Titans do need somebody to step up and prove that they can score touchdowns. And, Carnell Tate's a rookie. He did score touchdowns in college, but he's got to prove he can do it at the NFL level. No one else really on this team has proven to be a consistent scorer, getting into the end zone, whether that's from long range, big plays down the field, or in the red zone. Wan'Dale Robinson 2 years ago had 3 touchdowns, and last year, obviously, a little bit different. He only had 4 with Malik Neighbors not playing for most of the season. You look at the Titans from last season, 4 touchdowns from Alec Imanor, 4 from Chimdike, 2 from Gunnar Helm. You really just didn't get a whole lot of production in terms of actually scoring the football through the air. They need somebody to prove they can be that guy. I think Carnell Tate would be option number one, right? Like you drafted him 4th overall. He does have the big frame at 6'2". Like, and he's proven to be a good contested cat. Like he can go up and make a 50-50 ball 70-30. But he's got to do it at the NFL level. I don't know if you can count on that yet. I'd love to see somebody else step up and prove that they can be a scorer. Alec Iamander could be that kind of guy. He is big. He is fast. He's made plays like that in his rookie season, although not a ton. Gunnar Helm could also be that as well. But you need somebody who can be a go-to guy once you get down in that low red zone inside the 10 that they can score with rather than just running the football with Tony Pollard.
Yeah, and that's why I think this upcoming, training camp with, both ones out there getting a few reps against each other. I mean, you look at guys like Alante Taylor and Carnell Tate, if they go one-on-one against each other, what are those contested catches going to look like? And again, I think that would be a good baseline for a guy like Carnell Tate and also Titans fans kind of go off of, because Alante Taylor is no slouch. He is one of the best corners in all of football, in my opinion. I mean, last season I brought this up with Connor. Every time the Saints played the Titans, his name was brought up countless times on that TV broadcast.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's proven to be physical, and I think that's going to be important for Carnell Tate of like, hey, he's going to iron sharpens iron. Now, Alante Taylor is not, man, why am I blanking on like Patrick Surtain?
Sure.
Like he's not that level of player, but I think he is it's going to be harder for Carnell Tate against Alante Taylor than it would have been facing the Titans cornerbacks of last year or the year before, where they've struggled either with injury or just not being that good of players.
Yeah.
615-737-1025. I was hoping on my first day back that we would get a check-in from Trey. Let's go to our phone lines. Trey, thanks for calling. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you made it back, and congratulations on your marriage. And I hope you find success and everything that God has for your marriage. I wanted to come and fruition in your life, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Trey.
Hey, but all I want to say is I want Carnell Tate. Since we took him number one, I want him to go out there and establish himself as being a number one wide receiver. I want him to not go out there and be bullied because, they're going to be trying to bully him because, he was playing against, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. There's some full-grown men out there that's going to be behind him trying to, get him to kind of, be bullied and stuff. And I don't want to see him out there getting bullied. I know he's 6'2". I want him to go out there and get that ball. You know what I'm saying? When Cam Ward throw that ball to him, since he's number one pick, I want him to catch that ball. And Cam Ward got to lay off that ball a little bit. He throw that ball a little bit too tough, And I think they'll have a good, combination with each other. And we need somebody to, to be good in the slot, to get them 4-5 yards, that we desperately needed last year that we didn't get. We gonna have to have a solid running back core. I think Coach Sala gonna do a good thing. But I gotta see it for my own eyes. Cam Ward and Carnell Tate in action. I want to see them in action this year. And I love y'all, and y'all have a good day. Hey, and y'all making me famous. My friends and them didn't even know I was sick. Hey, they didn't even know I had wisdom teeth problems. We heard you on the radio. You couldn't even call us. I said, what you want me to do, man? Hey, but I love y'all. Y'all have a good day. Thank y'all.
Thanks for the call,
Stay
Trey.
blessed. You too.
Love it.
Cornell Tate.
Cornell, there you go.
I mean, Trey, every call, of course, is a winding road with Trey, but there always is a little nugget you can take that's like, yeah, Trey made a good point there. And I think he does make a good point that, just Carnell Tate, he's got to go out and prove it. And that's what we've been saying is, yes, you can look at where he was drafted and what he did in college and say, all right, he's gonna step in and be an upgrade. But you still have to see it on the field. And we've seen plenty of wide receivers, plenty of players in general who are highly touted coming into the league who just don't pan out. So I think that's the one nugget that I took from Trey's call there.
I would say the other nugget would be he wants to see it with his own eyes. Let's watch a game this year.
That's
Trey.
true.
I think
Trey,
that'd be great.
We're going to find out the schedule on Thursday. Week 1, I'd love Trey to actually watch the game. We'll even give Trey a segment coming out of week 1. Just hey, Trey's film breakdown from week 1.
Trey Vision.
But he's got to watch the game. He can't just listen to it. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, we'll get to some of your reaction and wrap up hour number 1 after this. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up. 1-2-5 the game. Today, the Nashville Sounds face the Iowa Cubs at First Horizon Park. First pitch set for 6:35, and you can catch all of the action on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Family, Leisure, and Social Cantina. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Parker, are you going to get out there and go see the your Iowa Cubs this week?
There is a possibility. Who knows? I may make an appearance. I heard it was sleeveless hoodie night on Saturday.
Oh, that might be.
And I asked Jeff him if he would be participating, so I may have to join.
I went out there and saw when Iowa played here last year, and it was Shode Munanga did his rehab start,
Really?
which was really cool. Like
I remember that.
It is cool to get to see like actual MLB players down here, and I believe there were a couple of rehabbing Brewers here over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think so.
I haven't kept up quite enough with it, but I'd like to get back out there. I hate the Mud Hens never come here. My Tigers AAA affiliate.
Yeah.
So.
Memphis, they come to Nashville twice a year, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
So
don't get Jeff Hem started on some of the scheduling issues with AAA baseball.
We're not going down that road. I would like to eat a ballpark dog though. It's been a while. I just maybe do the 9x9 challenge.
I was about
Wait,
to say,
is that the 9 hot dog, 9 beers?
Yeah, I was about to say there's something about a ballpark hot dog and beer. There's something else about 9 of them in like a 3-hour span, and with a pitch clock now, even less than that. So I'm gonna pass, as TD did when we offered it to him for opening day with the Mets.
Yeah, if I didn't eat barbecue yesterday and just overindulge, I would probably say Wednesday's the day. It's like a pitching rotation. Like you throw bullpen, whatever, on a Monday, your arm's real heavy. Then Wednesday, by the time you're already ready to rejuice, go out there, stomach doesn't recover that way.
That's how I feel right now coming back from my honeymoon. I'm like, I ate way too much. I need like a 2-day break, and then I'll probably get back into it. And I think I'm seeing my parents sometime this week, so it's like, all right, what are we doing? I'll figure it out.
I got a water fast for you. I'll send you the details of that.
Maybe I need a 48-hour water fast. Just knock it out.
You'd be surprised. Apple cider vinegar shot in the morning. Then you go with like, I think 48 fluid ounces through the day. You'd be all right.
All right. For more health tips, at Nick Frazier 23 on Twitter, on X.
Clarifying, not a real doctor, but this is stuff that I did back in the day. Still does work. So there you go.
We were talking about the Titans offense this year under Brian Daboll and what it might look like. We've kind of made the comparisons of, in Brian Daboll's ideal offense, there is one elite top line wide receiver. And when you take a guy at number 4, you expect that that's what Carnell Tate is going to be, or at least that's what Brian Daboll has in his mind. He also loves a slot receiver. He likes to get slotty out there with Cole Beasley and Wan'Dale Robinson. And he's also got big play threats. We saw with Darius Slayton and Emmanuel Sanders. Those guys average nearly 15 yards per catch. So I think you can see the prototypes of what Brian Daboll wants. I thought that Justin from Greenbrier said, may kind of wrap this up in a good way. He says, I feel a great deal of hope that the Titans offense is going to be much more productive this season because of the amount of weapons Cam is going to have to throw to. As long as he can get adequate protection, I think he takes a huge step forward this season. And I think that's a really good way to frame it, of they have given Cam Ward options in the passing game. And I think by adding Nick Singleton in the 5th round, you now have a trio, maybe not Tajay Spears, but you've got running backs that you feel confident in. Now it's just, can they protect him? Can that offensive line take a step forward despite a lot of big question marks up front?
Yeah, and mentioning the offensive line, it's fitting because you came back with the Nashville Sounds read there. Yesterday, the Sounds posted on their Instagram, I saw this on Twitter, that it was J.C. Latham and Dan Moore Jr. and Cam Ward. The 2 question marks on that offensive line, personally for me, were with their quarterback taking batting practice. They're building that offseason chemistry because, look, if those guys are not productive this upcoming fall, there's going to be no production at all. There's going to be no step forward for Cam Ward. That's the biggest, I'd say the biggest anchor right now that's holding everything back is those 2 players.
Yeah, the offensive line in general is just the one thing that it's obviously probably the most important part of this offense outside of Cam Ward. Like if Cam Ward isn't good this year, then yeah, everything else kind of is minimized. But I think you're expecting a second-year jump from Cam Ward. The biggest fulcrum there is the offensive line. Can they take a step forward and at least give Cam Ward adequate time? I think adequate is the right way to put it. You mentioned Dan Moore and J.C. Latham. Neither of them were great last year, but they also weren't completely horrible, at least not for the whole season. The interior of the offensive line has a lot of question marks. Whether, outside of Peter Skoronski, you have no idea who's starting at center or at right guard. Dan Moore, I agree with you, though, is going to be a big part of it. If you can't protect the blind side, Cam Ward's going to be in trouble. I did see, though, and I don't know what measure this was by. It could have been totally just random. Somebody on Twitter made it up. But somebody posted a graphic of like the worst offensive tackle seasons since 2010. And 3 of the bottom 10 were in the last 5 years for the Titans. It was Dennis Daly, Nicholas Petit-Frere, and Andre Dillard. We're all in like the bottom 10 in the last 15 years. So Dan Moore, thank you for at least not being that bad last season.
Yeah, obviously when he was signed to the Titans his first year, like he was coming off the most sacks allowed for Pittsburgh across the entire NFL. And you're just thinking, don't bring that to Nashville. And like he had a little bit of that. Don't get me wrong. Hopefully you can subside a little bit of those issues.
Yeah, but you are right. Dan Moore, J.C. Latham, the interior of the offensive line has question marks, but it's easier to kind of put that together and just say, all right, well, if we got good tackles, the interior triangle isn't going to be as relied upon. They're going to be able to get double teams, and it's going to be easier for them. But if you're having to help J.C. Latham or help Dan Moore against those top-line pass rushers every single snap, things could get hairy in a hurry for Cam Ward.
Yeah, and you mentioned the interior offensive line, and this was something Connor and I brought up yesterday, and it was like the center position with Pat Coogan and Austin Sloatman. And again, if Coogan's taking some first-team reps, I'd be concerned. I really would be, because you bring in Sloatman from New York that was with Daboll, and you also have Carmen Brasilio, who is the offensive line coach in New York. There's a lot of continuity there. If he is not that guy, that I'd be concerned about that, along with Jackson Slater at that right guard position, because I think it was Paul Karski reported like maybe a week after the draft, or I guess the week before the draft, that Borgonzi said Jackson Slater's taking more reps at right guard rather than center. To me, I see Slater as that third backup center if you need him, but really has to be invested at that right guard position.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying of if the young guys are starting, it's like, all right, man, they've got to trial by fire, throw them in there and see what happens.
Yeah.
But I also do think, like you said, Brasillo coached Sloatman last year. Volson has 50 games of starting experience at right guard. I think those guys are going to be given the first go at it as starting center and right guard, and the young guys are going to have to pass them. So I think it should make you feel better that if it is Pat Coogan starting at center, that means he showed enough to get rid of that benefit of the doubt that Sloatman probably is going to get just from his experience with Daboll and Brasillo and just having played in the NFL before.
Yeah, and kind of circling this to Mike Borgonzi in this case, you go to each position that needed extra help, like veteran presence. They've checked off all those boxes. Like you look at interior defensive line, you look at linebackers, you look at the interior line. Like they have checked off those boxes with Borgonzi.
Be careful.
Uh-oh.
Don't check all the boxes.
Oh, no, not all the boxes.
Else said that?
Not all the boxes are checked. I'm just saying the primary needs that they needed in the draft.
From every starter to the furthest backup.
We've checked every box.
No, not like that. Excuse me. Let me refrain my words. Checked off majority of those boxes. There you go.
615-737-1025. Let's quickly go to the phone lines. Dustin in Hopkinsville was called in. Dustin, thanks for calling. What you got for us?
Morning, guys. Well, I mean, talking about what y'all were saying last, when we have men in the room, they don't have to make catchphrases and things when they know football. Leaders don't care what you hear, they care what you see, and they really don't care what you see. They just produce what they want. With these wide receivers, I'm excited about the whole dang team right now. The only thing I'm not excited about, as always, is Amy, and she gets lucky. She does about every 3 or 4 years. Seems like she gets lucky, and I'll take luck sometimes over ignorance. And she has both, and it seems like she gets lucky more than not. But the phone call is about the wide receivers. They accompany the coaches and the GM. We picked a defensive-minded coach in his first year at Tennessee, picked an offensive weapon and was not selfish. That screams leadership, okay? And I think we're going to be more than pleasantly surprised. I'm pretty optimistic about this wide receiver room. I think sometimes it doesn't take much, just a little bit here, a little bit there, and adding another player to really take leaps and bounds. It's just these guys have the knowledge to do it. And with the offensive line, technically the offensive line is defense. You are defending your quarterback. You are in the minds of the defensive line. If you're not you could play either side, in my opinion. Yeah, you're pushing back on guys that are a little bit more athletic around the edge and things, but a defensive-minded coach should be able to elevate an offensive line, in my opinion. And obviously, Daddy Callahan was not the line guru we thought he was. I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised with this line because of the wide receivers allowing Cam Ward to get the ball out fast. I think it's all going to complement each other, complementary football, as we heard last year. But we ain't hunting together no more. The ball isn't round. We know that. We don't need that mess. Y'all have a good day.
Thanks for the call, Dustin. No, I think Dustin's right that there should be more optimism because it feels like there are adults in the room, and you've clearly elevated the talent level of this roster, but you have to see it before you believe it, given this team has won 6 games in 2 years.
Yeah,
So,
and kind of like what you were saying earlier about iron sharpens iron with the wide receivers and cornerbacks. Same thing for the defensive coordinator in this case,
right,
with the offensive line coach.
Yep.
I think that's another reason why you look at a guy like Carbon Brasilio, who did a really good job with a misfit of toys on that offensive line with New York.
Yeah, the offensive line going to be tested day in and day out in practice with Jeffrey Simmons and John Franklin Myers and Keldrick Falk and Jermaine Johnson, et cetera, et cetera.
Hey, Jackie Marshall, watch out for
There
him.
you-
I like that pick. I really do.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Hour number 1 in the books. We'll get into some Preds coming up here in hour number 2 as we still wait to find out who's going to be the next general manager of the Nashville Predators. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up. 102.5 The Game. Second hour, next man up, 102.5. The Game, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly BI membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Lots of Titans talk in the first hour. We will get back into the Titans later in the show as the NFL schedule release coming up this week. We will dive into that. Still have not seen any Titans announcements yet, as they are slowly leaking is not the right word because they're actually announcing it. But we've seen games start to come out. We found out the first Monday Night Football game today. Found out that the Lions would be the Bills' home opener in their new stadium on Thursday Night Football in week 2. But we will let you know if there's any developments with the Titans and dive into that in hour number 3. But the Predators GM search still rolling along and still do not know who is going to be Barry Trotz's successor. Now, I don't think there's any need for concern here, right? Like they told us that they wanted to have somebody in place by the NHL draft. There's still a while to go until the NHL draft. The Preds now know where they're picking after earning the 10th pick in the lottery last week. But I think the one thing that maybe does give Preds fans some pause here is they said they wanted to be first line in the water. They wanted to be ahead of the curve here with other GM openings. Well, the Devils have already fired a possible candidate here in Tom Fitzgerald and made their new hire in Sonny Meta 9 days later. And then the Maple Leafs got rid of their GM, made a new hire earlier this month, just a couple of days ago. So the Preds, despite having their line in the water first, have not been the first to catch a fish. Now, it could just be that they haven't been able to find the right candidate yet. It also could be that there's a candidate still out there who his team is still participating in the playoffs. But the names that we've heard, specifically Tom Fitzgerald, of course, the Devils GM, and that one has had a lot of smoke lately. And then assistant general managers Brett Peterson and Bill Scott. Peterson with Florida, Bill Scott with Edmonton. Neither of those teams are still in the playoffs. So it is a little confusing to me that the Predators have not made a decision yet to just give the new GM as much runway to prepare for the offseason as possible.
Yeah, it's confusing. And the thing that grabs my attention is, I think it was yesterday, Alex Doherty tweeted out the Preds will hold a media availability with assistant general manager Jeff Kelty and the chief amateur scout Tom Nolan on Wednesday at 12:45. They basically saying it's just a regular pre-draft presser. Again, the Preds not in the top 5. They're number 10 in the draft order. I don't see much urgency with that pick because there's probably not going to be a top prospect that can play now in the NHL because that's how draft picks are kind of, I would say, developed in that range.
Right.
Is they're going to be playing at the lower levels and then get up there. So maybe that's another reason why a lot of people are not as, magnified on the situation with the GM. Maybe that's the case. That's the only thing I can really gravitate towards and kind of really hone in on is that, it's just because there's not a lot of urgency around that draft pick.
Yeah, and I mean, the draft is still 6 weeks away.
Sure.
It's not like the draft is coming up in 2 weeks and what are they going to do? Is this basically just Barry Trotz is Barry Trotz going to have to do the draft? There's still plenty of time. But I think just given how early they made the announcement, early February, Barry Trotz had the press conference saying that he planned on stepping down. I think the longer this plays out, you're just wondering why. They've clearly had the opportunity to speak to lots of candidates over the past 3+ months. There's been obviously new candidates added to the pool. Tom Fitzgerald. I do wonder if maybe it's the scenario that we've talked about a decent amount of having 2 people fill this role and have the president of hockey operations and the general manager. And that's Max Hers brought that up to us. Maybe the plan is to have a guy like Tom Fitzgerald be their president of hockey operations and then bring in somebody else to be the GM. And maybe that candidate is still in the playoffs. A name that I think has been brought up is Darren York, the assistant GM with the Hurricanes. So there's a lot of reasons why the GM search could still be going along, but I think it's just you keep waiting, expecting it to wrap up somewhat soon, and the longer it goes on, the more it makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, that makes sense as to there might be somebody still in the playoffs that you're just kind of waiting on. And again, I think we will see that unfold a little bit more because of the way Carolina's playing in the playoffs. I mean, 8-0,
Yeah.
the first team since 1985, which was the Edmonton Oilers.
Right.
So, I mean, that's
They're
showing some
cruising.
promise. Yeah. At this point, it just seems like it's going to be Colorado and Carolina in the Stanley Cup final. And if that is the case, then that just gives a true telltale of who the Preds are going to go after. It's one of those two teams.
Right. And that's, I think it obviously isn't ideal to have to wait that long
Right.
if he is your guy. And I would think if they're waiting this long, they probably know that he would be their guy if that's the plan eventually. But I do think you hate to have to wait that long because the Stanley Cup final wraps up early June, so you're getting in there with about 3 weeks to go till the draft, which I think you can look at and say that even though there may be a new GM making the pick, a lot of the background information and the process among the scouts is still going to be very Barry Trotz centric. So I don't know if you can say, oh, you can put Barry Trotz's name on this draft, but I do think that his influence is going to be felt on the picks that are made this year, given how late into the process they're going to hire a GM.
Yeah, and you mentioned the general manager with the Carolina Hurricanes. Again, you're playing with more of a veteran-esque roster in Carolina, average age of 27 and a half years of age in a roundabout way. You look at the Nashville Predators, 27.9, so you're almost at 28 for an average age. That you have to find some similarities in that, not only from just the on-ice production, but also on the books. Obviously, the Preds have a lot of those contracts with Stamkos, Marchessault, Shea. You wonder if that is a guy in Carolina that can kind of say, you know what, I can take over this situation. I can kind of help get out of some of these situations and or benefit from them by bringing in more opportunities with this team on the roster.
Right. And there are good candidates out there. And as I'm sure you would agree, I don't know a ton about hockey front offices and who's going to be good, who's going to be bad.
Right.
But I do think that there is, I would like to give whoever the new person is as much runway as possible, given how important this offseason is and the big decisions that have to be made. I really would like to see them get in the building and start to make their mark rather than it be, all right, Barry Trotz is going to be the GM up until 3 weeks before the draft, and then we'll go.
Right. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to give the new GM or president of hockey ops, whatever it may be, that little hierarchy that is.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to give them too much leeway to the point where, like, once they get in here, let's see how it all plays out. No, like, there's going to have to be some immediate success. Like, this is a team that is not no spring chicken. They're not a spring chicken at all. Like, there's some veteran players in this team.
It's polarizing on the roster. You got a lot of young guys and a lot of old guys.
Yeah.
Not a lot in between.
And I know the direction was like, you want to mix the young and the old to help the young players develop, kind of what the Titans are doing at this degree right now. You want to make sure the veteran players are kind of help guide the younger players in the right direction. I mean, that is the case. It did happen the last couple seasons, but those veteran players are getting older and you need them to produce just as much as the younger players.
Yeah, the new GM is going to have a big decision in terms of direction of this franchise. And at least from what we heard Steven Stamkos say after the season, that he's been given no indication that this team is going to rebuild, that they want to compete next year. But regardless, the new GM going to have a lot of big decisions to make coming up over the next few months. I also wanted to say, Parker, congratulations on scoring the game-winning goal for the Avalanche last night.
Yeah, I don't know what that imposter was doing. I was playing basketball last night.
Multi-sport athlete over there.
I was watching the game and I saw, I was like, oh my God, Parker just scored the game-winning goal.
I did see the interview at the end. They're like, we're going to send it down to Parker Kelly right now, standing with whoever. I don't know who that is. That's not Parker Kelly.
Yeah. You've got the extra E in your name.
That'd be a good drop somewhere. Parker Kelly now. That'd be great.
Parker. Yeah. We need to have like an intro for Parker of like him scoring a goal from a game with Colorado. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. We'll get to some of your reaction on this as well. Continue talking Preds, and then we'll get back into the Stanley Cup playoffs a little bit because we got some big ones tonight. Vegas and Anaheim. Winner takes the 3-2 lead in the series. And then Buffalo trying to get it back to Western New York with a 2-2 series locked up heading back to Buffalo. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up. 1-2-5 the game. There you go. Parker Kelly putting the Avalanche up 3-2 in the third yesterday. They end up winning, and the Avalanche have a 3-1 series lead heading back to Colorado. I love that Chase hired two guys with names of current NHL players. Jake Lyman previously, who was with Edmonton, right?
I believe so,
and Parker Kelly with Colorado.
Was Jake Lyman ever with Colorado?
He might have been.
I think San Jose at one point, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
San Jose, Edmonton, maybe Colorado.
Feels like an Adam Vingan question.
Yeah.
Yes. And speaking of Adam Vingan, Adam Vingan has tweeted and drawn my attention to a report here. We were just talking about why the Predators GM search has drawn on as long as it has. Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects on Twitter verified guy, says, despite some speculation that Ryan Johnson could interview in Nashville if Vancouver goes with gold, league sources indicate the Predators already have their next GM lined up. The delayed announcement is believed to be tied to the successful candidate currently being an assistant GM with a playoff team. So that is a report. Again, it's not from Elliot Friedman or Greg Wyshynski or some of the guys, our friends of the station, but it is a report that league sources indicate the Preds might already have their GM lined up. Adam tweeting, responding to this, if it is Carolina's assistant GM, Darren York, I wonder why the Predators haven't announced it. The Hurricanes, after sweeping Philadelphia, are off for the next week. So we don't know. But I guess there's at least one report that maybe the Predators do know who their next GM is going to be. They just have to wait to actually make the official announcement.
Yeah, and also, too, if you're the Nashville Predators, yes, it does. It's great to bring, eyeballs to the franchise if you wanted to announce that. I mean, again, it's still a report at this point. But if that is the case, like, if it were me in that situation, I'd just wait until the end of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I really would. Just because, you already have enough eyeballs on the roster of just the veteran players, Stamkos, Marchessault, Shea. Just wait till the after. Nothing changes. That's the thing. He's still going to continue with his job, going to collect a potential Stanley Cup. There's nothing that's going to change.
And if you have your guy already locked up, like if it's been agreed to and you're just waiting for his team to be done, whether it's York with Carolina or somebody else, Barry Trotz's staff, like the current staff in the Preds building, is going to be the one leading you through the draft. Caleb asks, would whoever they hire not bring in their own scouts or at least someone they trust in that type of role? I'm sure they'd have some people follow them, at least unless hockey is completely different from every other sport. I do believe that when you hire a new GM, usually they use the scouting staff of the previous administration through the first offseason, because it's so difficult to do all that turnover all at once and still prepare for the draft. So I believe they would go through the draft with this current front office staff, and then they would make the changes in the fall. Like, that would be when you start to see the new GM bringing in his own scouting staff. So that does allow them to be more patient with it. Of most of the scouting work is going to be done by the people already in the building. Now, you'll have a new decision maker, but it's not, I guess that would be a reason why it's not a big deal for them to try and rush this announcement through.
My question to you, Jake, when it comes to scouting, and I'm keeping it very basic on this, is that players like Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea, who have those long-term deals, let's say they do want to stay here in Nashville, say they do have a second, wind of wanting to be in Nashville. Do you think the front office would go to them as a consultation of looking at potential scouts to bring in?
I don't know.
Because to me, if I'm a vet and I'm saying I want to stay here, I want a scout that can kind of curate around my style of play. Why not, right?
I don't know if the scouts really play that big of a role in that. Scouts are, I think it's typically just guys that the decision makers in the front office trust to give them good evaluations of players, right? Because it's not the scout's job to make a decision, right? They can stand on the table and say, this player is going to be a star for us, we need to take him. But in the end, they're not being hired for their determination skills and their decision making. They're being hired for their evaluation skills. So you're just trying to get what they believe this player is, and then it's going to be up to the new GM to say, all right, you're telling me this, he's telling me this, I'm going to choose this player. So I don't know if it makes a whole lot of difference in terms of the veteran players, but I do think with some of these veteran players, there are decisions that are going to have to be made. And it seems like Steven Stamkos isn't on the table to be moved and that he's going to stick around. But like Jonathan Marchessault, I think the decision, the conversation at the very least has to be had of whether they want to move on from him. Ryan O'Reilly as well. I think you would have gotten a whole lot more value for him if you traded him at the deadline, because you get that extra cup run. But I do think you at least have to have the conversation with the new GM of whether he feels like it's in the best interest of the long-term future of the franchise to move off those players. So I think that would be why I'd want them to get the guy in here and start to have those conversations. But I also think that some of those decisions might be being made throughout the interview process of hey, what are your thoughts on this player and this player? And it allows the Predators to kind of pick and choose which direction they want to take the franchise based on who they hire.
Right. And you mentioned Marchessault there for a second. I know at the end of the year when they had all those little player press conferences, like he even mentioned, like it was not a good year for him at all. And of course, that does affect his trade value. Again, he needs to find some sort of spark. If it were me, I don't know if I would try to move off of him right now, like in the offseason or just the beginning of the season. See what you can get out of him in the first half of the season before the deadline. And if he does end up scoring a lot of goals or getting a lot of assists, that's when I would go try and offload him.
Yeah.
That's just how I look at it.
I do think with the name value of Jonathan Marchessault, though, you might be able to get a decent return, not a good return, but an okay return, just because it's like the I can fix him mentality that a lot of teams have. It's like, all right, well, we saw what he did in Vegas. Clearly, things just didn't work out in that system. He needs a change of scenery out of Nashville. We can fix him. We can get him back to being maybe not the Jonathan Marchessault of old, but get him back to being more productive. So maybe there's a team that values him like that and would give you a decent haul in return. It wouldn't be a lot, but I think you could get something. That's going to be up to the new GM. And another thing that we haven't touched on here with the new GM is new GM's going to have to make a decision on the coach, right? Like that's going to be one of his first big questions is, all right, is Andrew Brunette your guy for 2026, 2027? And if the answer is yes, then maybe the Preds already know that the new GM wants to keep him. And it's like, all right, then there's no reason to rush it. But the later you get into these coaching searches, I think the harder it becomes. So I would like them to make this decision soon, make this announcement soon. But I also understand that like there may not be much you can do if it is somebody who's on a current playoff team.
Yeah, because like you can't hit the ground running. They have to continue with their current job they have before they can go to the next one. I mean, and back to the Marchessault point for a second. Last season, when he I think made the comment, or it was reported from Elliot Freeman or one of the big hockey insiders about how he wants, if he were to be traded, he wants to go to a place where he can develop youth hockey for his kids. Like to me, that's going to be a hard task to really grab onto if you're the new GM coming into Nashville. Where can you find that spot for a guy like that? If that is still the ramifications
right.
around
and
him.
He does have no movement clause, so
Correct.
you'd have to find a spot that works for him. I know no state taxes was another thing that's been brought up with Jonathan Marchessault because he's only played in Florida, Nevada, and Tennessee. So, this is a massive offseason for the Predators, and I think that's why I think there's some antsiness, some impatience from Preds fans of like, all right, let's get the guy in here so he can start to work through these decisions. And we're sitting here now in mid-May, not knowing at this point. But there is the one report that we just talked about, Cam Robinson saying that league sources indicate the Predators may already have their next GM lined up. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'd love to hear from you. You can text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at 1025 The Game for live shows and exclusive content. We'll keep doing that hockey when we come back. We will talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs. Some big games tonight. Could we see the Canadiens take one step closer to getting a Stanley Cup back up north? We hope not. Go Buffalo. And also Vegas and Anaheim. There are some implications for the Predators on that series. We'll talk about that right after this. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. 1025 The Game's Chasing Big Joe show will be broadcasting live tomorrow at Nash Dogs at 1427 Robinson Road. Nash Dogs now serving at their Old Hickory Cafe, plus catering, corporate events, and food truck bookings. Find out more at nashdogs.com. Stop by and you could win tickets to see Nashville Smash take on the Boston Butchers in the Team Boxing League at Municipal Auditorium on May 23rd. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Next man up, 1025 The Game. We are going to talk Stanley Cup playoffs. I did want to mention this quickly, though. Did we see LeBron James' final game last night?
I watched the first 2 quarters, basically the first half, and then I fell asleep. But the stuff I did see of LeBron, he missed like 3 layups. There was a few assists that probably should have went in, but it's unfortunate.
I think that the Lakers, when they made that Luka trade, they said, that's what we're building around from here on out. And it's hard to build around Luka when LeBron James is making, like $50-something million a year?
Yeah.
And, you can't cut LeBron, right? But, like, you can maybe heavily imply that he needs to leave. I don't know. I don't think we've seen LeBron's last game as an NBA player. Maybe we have seen his last game as a Laker.
Yeah, I would say Laker. His youngest son that's currently at Arizona University.
Does he go to the Suns?
I mean, look, if that does happen, I could see all 3 of them. Like, LeVar Ball back then, all 3 of his sons playing the same team in the NBA.
Yeah.
LeBron has a lot of pull to where that could happen.
That is
him and his 2 sons.
And Matt Ishbia, the owner of the Suns, he is such an all-in, knee-jerk kind of guy. Like we saw the Kevin Durant trade that they made and the Bradley Beal trade. It's like, if LeBron wanted to come to Phoenix, I think that would probably happen. Maybe that ends up being, I know Tucson and Phoenix aren't exactly it's not Tempe, but it would be closer for sure. We'll see. I just thought that was interesting seeing this morning and last night of have we seen the end of LeBron James?
I mean, to be fair, he did drop 24 points. I'm not going to.
No, he's still a very good player, but it's he's 43 now?
Something like that. Yeah, he's in his 40s. And again, a lot of those
41.
A lot of those points last night were in the paint. They weren't your typical LeBron James of 2016, 2017 dropping just crazy 3-pointers out of the corner. They were definitely worked in the paint.
It is crazy to think we are 10 years removed from the 2016 NBA Finals. I mean, which I think LeBron had some great moments in his NBA career, but that's the one everybody's always going to remember is coming back from 3-1, the Game 7, the block. That is the crown jewel of LeBron James' NBA career. Yeah, the 2 great teams with the Heat of Bosh and Wade and the Heatles, and they won a couple of championships there. He was able to win the one in the bubble, but I do think that, and it's crazy, it's 10 years ago and he's still playing.
I mean, good for him. He's definitely keeping his nutritional value up. I mean, he's watching what he eats. There's no donuts involved in that diet. I can tell you that much. I mean, you look at a guy like LeBron James, you think, what's next on the storyline? Because he definitely started out Cleveland, then went to Miami.
Does he go back to Cleveland?
Right. And you kind of can't say that he can go back to Cleveland because they got Spidey Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell, that is. You have James Harden. You have pieces on that team right now that you can revolve, or I guess you can, build around. You don't need a LeBron to build around.
Yeah, I've lost so much interest in the NBA just over the past couple of years, but I do think that LeBron James, obviously, everybody wants to know what is going to be next for him. It's been the same way since the decision. It's like everybody wants to know what LeBron's going to do next. We will have to see. 5956 on the text line says he can come to his favorite city, Memphis. There we go.
Actually, that makes an interesting point. What if LeBron is the front runner to bring a franchise to Nashville?
Yeah.
What if that is his next move?
Yeah, he tells Adam Silver, he's like, I want to play in Nashville for my final year. You got to move the Grizzlies.
What if that's the case? Because look, the Grizzlies have the 3rd overall pick in the NBA draft, wasn't that?
Yeah.
That might be something to look at. Again, not trying to push a narrative, but LeBron, if he wants to do something, that might be something to do.
How about LeBron to the Wizards? They're going to have probably AJ Dabansa as the number 1 pick. They got Anthony Davis. They got Trae Young. Go bring a championship to Washington.
There might be a lot of comparisons when it comes to LeBron and Michael Jordan, because isn't that where Jordan?
That is true. Yeah,
career
that's
too?
probably he doesn't want to go back there. Anyway, they got swept 4-0 by the Thunder, who look like they are just rolling to a second straight title. Are they 8-0? Yeah, the Suns didn't beat them either.
I don't. Yeah, I think
so. They will move on and face the winners of the Spurs and Timberwolves, which
that's a series.
Seems like it's been a solid series. I saw Wemby got ejected the other night for an elbow to the throat, but that's actually been a good series. We'll see if anybody can slow down the Oklahoma City Thunder. On the other side, Stanley Cup playoffs. I think there's obviously been some blowouts, right? Like we said, Carolina has been rolling through the East. It looks like Colorado going to take care of business after a big win in Minnesota last night, but this Sabres and Canadiens series, I know the last two games, the Canadiens have kind of run away with it a little bit, but tonight is going to be a really, really important game. I am all in on the Buffalo Sabres. That Buffalo fans are so tortured. And Montreal too, obviously, but I care less about Canada. So I don't want to see Canada finally break the drought of not winning a Stanley Cup. So go Sabres tonight. I need Buffalo to even this up and get it back to Buffalo.
Yeah, I think it was in the first round when the Anaheim Ducks beat the Edmonton Oilers. After literally the final whistle or final horn blew, you could hear the crowd chanting, USA, USA.
Yeah.
Because they don't want it to go to Canada at all, and I agree.
Well, did you know, I didn't realize this until the first game of the playoffs, and maybe it's because Buffalo hasn't played in many nationally televised games. Did you know that they play O Canada before every home game, no matter who's playing?
Really?
Yeah, Buffalo, because you can see Canada from the arena. It's that close. So they play O Canada before every home game, regardless of who the opponent is, which I thought one of my friends is from Buffalo, and I texted him. I was like, do they play O Canada before every home game? He said, yeah. So
good for them.
I guess Canadians, that could be, if Buffalo does move on, that could be their stepchild is Buffalo.
Yeah, and it also helps out with football too, because a lot of those Buffalo Bills fans come across for season tickets and stuff like that.
Right.
So.
Other game tonight, Vegas and Anaheim, and the Preds have a little bit of a rooting interest in this yesterday. I saw Alex Doherty tweeted this. The Nick Hague trade, there's a contingent pick based on how far Vegas goes in the playoffs. So if Vegas wins this series against Anaheim, the Preds improves from a third to a second?
Correct.
So that's I don't know if I want to say root for Vegas, because I struggle to root for the Golden Knights. That's just they're a team that wants to be the villain, so it's I don't really want to root for them. But and Anaheim's been fun, but yes, if Vegas advances, the Preds get a higher draft pick.
I mean, the storyline you can gravitate towards when it comes to Vegas is Jack Eichel's reunion tour in the Stanley Cup Finals against Buffalo. There you go, Jack Eichel in Vegas.
How about that?
That's from Greg Wyshynski. Can't take that as my own credit.
Stanley Cup playoffs have been good so far. Got a couple of game sevens in the opening series, opening set of series. And then despite the sweep from Carolina, got a couple good series coming up here in the conference semifinals. 615-737-1025. It's funny. You mentioned the LeBron, just LeBron's name, and there has to be responses about Michael Jordan. It is why that argument has been the lifeblood of sports talk radio, national sports talk radio, for a generation now. not that long, but 10 years of the LeBron Michael Jordan debate. We got 2438 says LeBron has only played one full 82 game season his entire career. He's not anything special and still isn't the GOAT. He is something special. Don't think anybody can deny that. I would probably agree with right now. He's still not the GOAT.
Right.
1880 says Mark safe from caring what LeBron James will do next. I just think LeBron James he is more than just a basketball player. He is a full-on celebrity. And so as he makes his decision of what he's going to do at the end of his career, I think everybody's going to have their eyes on it.
It's interesting too. Obviously he's in the latter part of his career, but I'm a big Bob Does Sports fan, watching all those golf videos. He was on Bob Does Sports.
Yeah, that was when he made the Memphis comment, right?
Yeah, exactly. So he's doing more of those, I guess, celebrity cameos on a lot of these different platforms, which makes you think, is this the last bit of his career that we're just trying to really absorb right now? Maybe this was his last game. I don't know. I'm more on the side of probably not, but we'll see.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to join the conversation, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Now, Nick Frazier, on my honeymoon, I was trying to unplug a little bit, right? I think my new wife appreciated that I was not scrolling through Twitter and checking scores all the time. But there was one story over the weekend that I could not stop following because it was just absolutely insane to me. And it's a local one. We'll get to it coming up next to wrap up hour number 2. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Don't miss GalaxyCon at the Nashville Fairgrounds on May 29th through May 31st. It's a 3-day festival of fandom with celebrities, artists, entertainers, and more. For more information, visit thegamenashville.com/events. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you, wrapping up the second hour of the show. And we're going to talk Titans schedule release coming up in the 11 a.m. hour. But on my honeymoon, I was trying to unplug. Not be scrolling through sports stories all the time, but I saw the Vanderbilt, Missouri game 1 home run, no home run debate, and I was just entranced by this. How in 2026 can we not know whether a ball went over the fence? Like, it was just such a strange phenomenon to me of we have TrackMan data showing that the ball probably went over the fence, right? Like I think it went like 380 feet right around there. And in right to right center field, the furthest fence was 375 feet. There is an eyewitness who found the ball beyond right field, and great job by Joey Dwyer on this story. For I believe Vandy on SI wrote this. He talked to this fan out there who found the ball with mud on it, and it was like over near the football facility. The bullpen said it went out. The initial indicator, right, from the umpire on the field, we saw him do the home run, twirl the finger. They eventually say the ruling on the field is a ground rule double, and they had no video evidence to overturn it. Just such a crazy thing to happen in the year 2026 when we have all this technology, all these cameras, and we still can't figure out whether a ball went over the fence, which did cost Vanderbilt that game. I don't think you can say it's going to cost Vanderbilt an NCAA tournament berth. There's a lot of other things that have gone into that, of injuries, and they haven't been very good this year compared to the standard of Tim Corbin's Vanderbilt baseball program. But when Vandy is playing for their tournament life this weekend against Missouri, to have something like that basically take a win away from you is just so brutal, and something that I've never seen anything like that before, and I'm not sure we will ever see it again, of just not knowing whether a ball went over the fence because the fog was too thick.
It doesn't make sense to the point of, if they're going to call it a ground rule double, and mentioning that part about the baseball with a lot of mud on it, the ground is wet. That ball's not going to bounce like a bouncy ball, okay? It's not going over the right center like that at all. So, and also it makes me wonder too, does it now implement extra cameras on the foul pole aiming over the fence?
Yeah, like I feel like this maybe has to lead to some sort of technological change. Can they allow the umpires to use TrackMan in a situation like that, where you have the exact dimensions of the field? How would that ball, if it traveled 379 feet, which that's the data that they have for TrackMan, how would it have been a ground rule double when the furthest line in that part of 375 to the power alleys? How does that even physically become a ground rule double? Because you could say, oh, well, maybe the fence is higher than that and it hit off the fence. Wouldn't there have been a ball on the field then? Like, if it got over the fence and we found the ball and the bullpen has said that it went out, it was a home run. I am convinced that ball went out of the ballpark. But I don't know how you fix it, right? Because it's supposed to be conclusive video evidence. And obviously they did not have that. So I guess your options are add more cameras, like you said, or give the umpires the ability to use the technology that we have that shows you, yeah, that ball was hit out of the ballpark, and be able to make the right call, because that was not a ground rule double. I cannot see anything that shows me it was a ground rule double.
And also, too, not only just the distance, but the launch angle. Are we just going to forget about the launch angle off the bat? Like, that also plays a factor into how far this ball goes and what the height is on the home run. I'm going to call it a home run because that's what it was. And also, too, something I mentioned to you in the break was, whatever happened to the verbiage these umpires and officials use in college sports? The call on the field originally, like we saw on the video, was a home run, right?
Right.
Not sure if that was the official call or not, but if the official call was a home run, you cannot go on video and say that was a ground rule double, we're going to overturn that. It's either the call stands or the call is confirmed.
Well, it's just frustrating because clearly somebody called home run. We have conclusive video evidence of an umpire calling home run. Why are they allowed to then conference after that and change the call on the field without looking at video? Right? Why, if you call a home run on the field, why are you allowed to come together and change the call unless somebody saw, like, and I would think one of the umpires would have been asked to say, I saw the ball hit on the playing surface before it bounced out or something like that. But clearly there was none of that. And if you're going to motion home run, why are you allowed to overturn that initial ruling without conclusive video evidence? But then when you look at all the data and the video, you're like, all right, well, ground rule double. It's just frustrating. And again, there are a lot of things that have played into Vanderbilt possibly missing the tournament, likely missing the tournament this year. But in a game like that, where your back's against the wall and you have to have it to go win the series and to go and eventually make the tournament, it's tough to have such a completely bogus situation pop up like that doesn't go your way.
Yeah, and to that point about a potential postseason for Vanderbilt when it comes to baseball, that going into that weekend, they were 68 with RPI ranking. After the weekend, they're 73. I'm not sure how much of that really plays a factor into all this. It's more of just winning in once you get to the SEC tournament.
Right, which Tim Corbin's teams are very good in Hoover. We know that. So, you can't completely count them out yet. But, yeah, the RPI has been under fire a lot this week. I don't know if you've seen, a lot of teams are canceling midweek games this week because their RPI is going to get worse the second they step on the field. Whether they win or lose. So, like, let's say, blank State University is 45th in the RPI. Even if they go beat, Jackson Community College or whoever they're playing on a Tuesday by 15, their RPI is going to go down no matter what. So they've decided just not to play these games. I think it shows you the RPI is a flawed system and probably needs to be fixed.
Yeah, kind of like the BCS with college football. Like, it's just a computerized system that you based all of your value off of. Again, you're going to have to go to the eye test for this type of stuff, I think, going forward.
Yeah. College baseball, we are gearing up for the tournament. I know the college softball tournament starts this weekend. It's always a fun time of year with the College World Series, and Vanderbilt going to have some work to do next week in Hoover if they are going to extend the longest active postseason streak in college baseball. Nevada Josh says, if the ball was not found, shouldn't it be called a home run? I mean, I always thought you knock a ball out of the park and it's not in the field of play, it's a home run unless it hits the wall and lands back on the field. Well, so a ground rule double also doesn't end up on the field, right? Like, it bounces and gets into the seats or over the wall. I have a really hard time believing that a ball that was hit 379 feet, bounced before a 375-foot wall, and then had the angle to get over the wall and not just hit the wall and bounce back into the field of play. It was a home run. I'm almost 100% convinced it was a home run. I thought the way that they handled it was done poorly. You can't signal home run and then just arbitrarily overturn it to ground rule double and then say, because there's no conclusive evidence, we can't overturn it to home run. There's nothing you can do. Nothing you can do.
You know this, Jake, as well, because you played baseball. That warning track, especially in a lot of these fields, it's not your clay dirt. It is like a gravelly.
Well, Missouri, I think, might be turf, all the way around.
Oh, okay. Well, then still, to that point, if it's wet turf, that ball's not going to bounce like a bouncy ball. I'm sorry. It's just not.
Right. And the picture of the ball that's been put out there, again, Joey Dwyer wrote the article. It has like mud caked onto the ball. After a bounce, it's going to land a lot softer. I would guess it plugs straight into the dirt. And, we'll never know. There's never going to be video evidence of the ball going over the fence. But I just thought that was an insane story over the weekend that cost Vanderbilt a very important data point for their postseason hopes. 615-737-1025. We got one more hour on this Tuesday. We'll get back into the Titans coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Final hour on this Tuesday morning. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Back into the Titans here for the 11 a.m. hour. Schedule release coming up on Thursday. I do think the schedule release, one of the most overhyped events of the year. Like, they're starting to do, ESPN's doing like a 4-hour special around the schedule. I mean, all right, let the teams do their silly social media videos and put out the schedule, and I'm good with that. We don't need to be breaking down, oh, week 6, look ahead to this one, Sunday Night Football. Like, I just want to know when and where. And so they've drawn it out, but it is interesting because there are some things that that fans do care about around the schedule release. First one, of course, primetime games. Do we think after not getting one last year, and the NFL specifically saying about the Titans not getting a primetime game, they said you can't draft your way into primetime, that Cam Ward as the number 1 overall pick, that's not enough to draft your way into primetime. Well, they won 3 games again last year. Do we think that they go 2 years in a row without getting a primetime game?
I don't think 2 years in a row. I think they actually get one this year just because of the jerseys, getting ready for the next stadium, New Nissan Stadium. There's got to be one game.
They do have the rivalry uniforms, which does that directly coincide with a primetime game?
In years past, it has, right?
Maybe I'm thinking of the Color Rush jerseys again.
The Color Rush.
I do think they have to get a primetime game. I think the NFL tries its best to give each fan base at least one. Even the bad teams, give them at least one primetime game. And the Titans, of course, aren't a big market either, right? Sure. Like the Giants, no matter how bad they are still going to get like 4 or 5 primetime games. Mm-hmm. We see it every year. In fact, they're getting the age-old tradition of Cowboys and Giants on the opening week Sunday Night Football. Great. The Titans don't have the cachet of the New York Giants. And again, they've won 6 games in 2 years. I do think the NFL does make an effort to give teams at least one, and especially after not having any last year, I think they do get at least one primetime game. Will it be at home, though? Which they didn't have one at home last year. And if memory is serving me correctly, they didn't have one at home 2 years ago either.
Maybe.
They played the Monday night game at Miami 2 years ago, and I want to say that was it.
I will double check for you.
I mean, it's been a while in general since I think they've had a home primetime game.
Last primetime game for the Titans was Miami Dolphins Monday Night Football. Yeah. And
2 years ago?
Yeah.
Right. That was the
September 30th.
The Snoop Huntley game. And then they played Miami on Monday Night Football the year before as well.
Yep.
That was the comeback from down, 28-14 or 27-13, the final 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. They had one more that year, though, too.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
Because they were actually that was the year they came off the loss. But I'm trying to think back.
Steelers on Amazon Prime, Thursday Night Football.
Yes.
That's it. Because Will Levis had that shoulder injury. Yeah,
right. But that was on the road too.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think back, like, what was the last home primetime game? Let me see if I can find this somewhere.
Don't quote me on it.
Oh, you know what it was? It was the Josh Dobbs Cowboys Thursday night game. Because I was working back in my head of obviously the win and in game against the Jaguars was a primetime game. That was on a Saturday night. And then the week before that was the Thursday night Cowboys game where Josh Dobbs started and Kevin Byard had he had 2 interceptions in that game.
Wow. Time has flown by, and using a Pastronaut reference there. I mean, that is crazy.
So it's been almost 3 years.
Yeah.
No.
4.
3.5 years since they've had a home primetime game. Here are the home opponents for the Titans this year: Cleveland, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Washington, New York Jets, and then your 3 division opponents: Texans, Colts, Jags. There's always a chance that you get one of those strange Thursday night or Monday night games at home. But I do look at that slate at home, and it reads a whole lot of noon kicks this year over at Nissan Stadium in its final season.
Yeah, I mean, trying to figure out what primetime game would work best for them, it'd have to be in the division, right? I think that's the only storyline. It probably seems to be like the Jags. I mean, there's that Liam Cohen, Robert Saleh
Right.
beef or whatever you want to call it. But any other storylines, you could say the Jets, but Jets are really nothing. Maybe the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles having a bunch of new, players from the roster. I mean,
Yeah,
the draft. I mean, you
well,
have Eli Stowers,
Well, and like AJ Brown would be a draw there, but he's not going to be on the team.
right?
I look at the home schedule and I struggle to see them saying any of those deserve to be in prime time.
Yeah.
Philly and Pittsburgh are maybes. Maybe Washington, the Jaden Daniels, Cam Ward aspect of it all, those are possible. And then, of course, the division games always have a chance. But I think if they're going to get a primetime game this year, it's going to be on the road. Here's the game I think they might choose because there are a ton of storylines around it. Brian Callahan, Brian Daboll, Jackson Dart, Cam Ward, Carmen Brasillo. There's another one there. I'm blanking on the other connection, but Giants Titans.
Denard Wilson.
Denard Wilson is their DC.
That's right.
Is he their DC or the defensive back coach?
DC.
DC.
Yeah, okay, he's their DC. I think
Matt Nagy.
Right, Matt Nagy almost was the coach here. Now he's the OC of the Giants. I think Giants Titans, and maybe that's just being inside the market. You think it's a bigger deal storyline wise, but I just the two coaches that were the head coaches of those teams last year are now flip-flopped. You've got two quarterbacks, the two first-round picks from last year. I think that game in New York could very well be a primetime game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge possibility. There is a lot of storylines and connections for that. I don't know. I just think if the Titans were to get a home primetime game, maybe Jaguars, but I'm leaning now more towards Houston because of the connections with Houston Oilers, Houston, Texans, Tennessee
Titans have the new uniforms that, mimic the old Oilers uniforms.
The Titans of Tennessee, as they have on their nice little bomber jacket, is what they call it.
I want just Jaguars, Titans, and bring back the Color Rush uniforms. I think I've said this before, but bring back the mustard yellow Jags uniforms, bring back the full bright baby blue for the Titans, and let's run it back. Have Marcus Mariota and Blake Bortles do the coin toss ahead of the game. Like I want Thursday night football, Color Rush, Titans, Jags in Nissan Stadium this year.
Now for the Color Rush helmets for the Jags, you want that like the black color in the back, then it fades into gold in the front. You know what I'm talking about? Those little like matte black faded into gold helmets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The two-tone helmets for the Jags, those were great.
Those are something, man.
Keegan says, Jake, I hate to say, but that Cowboys game you brought up, KB did have multiple picks, but he went and put one on the Star. Wasn't a home game. I think they're two separate games. I think he had multiple picks in both those games.
Yeah.
Because I remember exactly which game you're talking about, Keegan. That was 2018. Where Byard had the one in the end zone that he went and put on the Star. Marcus had a couple rushing touchdowns in that game, I want to say. But I do think in that game where Dobbs was the starting quarterback that he also had a couple picks. Let's see. 2022 for Kevin Byard?
Yeah, December of 22.
The game log. Dallas. He had 2 interceptions in that game. But the 2018 one against Dallas, he had 1. He had just the 1.
Still.
In a 28-14 game. So, but yes, that was a great moment as well. That was on Monday Night Football, if I'm not mistaken. Cowboys and Titans.
Yeah, the one in Dallas.
The one in Dallas, yes. Yeah. The Thursday night game was the one here. So we'll see if the Titans get a home primetime game, but there's more that goes into the schedule than that. We will get into all of it coming up next. We talk a lot about which games are winnable for the Titans. And I think there are a decent amount of winnable games on this schedule. But how many of them would you actually pick the Titans to win? We'll talk about it coming up next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Getting ready for the NFL schedule release on Thursday evening. Titans, final year in the current Nissan Stadium. And we were just going through opportunities at primetime games. Doesn't look like there's a ton, especially on the home slate. Cleveland, Philly, Pittsburgh, Washington, New York, and then the 3 divisional opponents. Away, I think there's more opportunities. I mentioned the Giants as a possible matchup, 2 young quarterbacks, a lot of connections between the coaching staffs. Maybe Vegas, the previous 2 number 1 picks, Raiders, Titans. Maybe that gets a primetime matchup. But overall, likely going to be a lot of noon kicks, as there always are for the Tennessee Titans. And looking through this schedule, it looks easier. I believe the NFL put out a graphic showing the strength of schedule based on last year's records, which, as we know, is not always actually going to show you what the schedule is going to look like. But I do think that this schedule on paper looks to be more of a 4th place schedule than the one the Titans had last year that ended up being the hardest schedule in all of football.
Yeah, I mean, last season they went up against like some of the toughest defenses in the first 5 weeks of the season.
Right.
It's like nobody expected this.
You played the Texans twice, which always is going to happen. That had nothing to do with the schedule makers. But you had the Seahawks and you had the Rams. And who else did they have early on in the season?
Cleveland. Oh, that was later on, but just the defense in general. LA.
Denver to start the season.
Yeah,
so they faced some of the toughest passing defenses in the entire league last year. This schedule, at the very least, looks a little bit more palatable. And I think there is a difference between winnable games and games you should win. And I think for the Titans, as a team that, again, has only won 6 games in 2 years, you're looking for all of the winnable games. What are games that you look at and you say, all right, yeah, if we play a solid game, we can beat that team. And I think there are a decent amount of those on this schedule. It's the NFL. There are very few games that aren't at least somewhat winnable. But I also don't see a ton of games on the schedule that I'm like, yeah, the Titans should win that one. Cleveland at home, I'm going to say I think that is a game the Titans should win. They beat them in Cleveland last year with a team that was much worse. I think the Titans should beat the Browns at home this year. I think the Titans should beat the Jets at home this year. I know that they didn't beat Geno Smith last year in Vegas, but like, the Jets, if Geno Smith is going to be their starting quarterback, I think you can win that game. That might be it.
Really?
Like, do you see any other games that you look at on the schedule and you say the Titans should win that game?
At home?
Or just any of them?
Jacksonville, 100%.
They went 13-4 last year.
Jacksonville, look, you look at that offensive side of the football, you're not having Travis Hunter taking the majority of the snaps on offense as a wide receiver. He's gone to defense. What happens with Brian Thomas Jr. this year? Does he have a resurgence? At running back, you know, now losing Travis Etienne, who is one of the key contributors on offense, with a guy in Trevor Lawrence, now is in New Orleans. How do you fill the voids of all of that?
Well, and this is not me saying I think the Titans are going to go 2-15.
Sure.
I want to get that out of the way before people start texting in. You think they're going to go 2-15? No, but I look, and those are the only 2 games I look at and say the Titans should be favored in those games. Now, they're going to surprise some people, I think. If what you expect to happen with this roster, Cam Ward takes a step, some of the young guys take a step, Robert Saleh improves the defense just based on what he's been able to do in previous spots. Yeah, this team should win some games they're not favored in. But I look at that, like, when the schedule comes out on Thursday, usually the NFL will put out basic lines, at least for week 1, if not through the entire season. I would bet the Titans are favored in only the Browns and Jets games at most.
I mean, yeah, probably so. Other teams in the division as well, the Indianapolis Colts, I think that's another team that has a question mark because you're not sure what Daniel Jones is going to look like after the injury. Riley Leonard's the backup in that situation.
Or Anthony Richardson.
That too. Oh boy. You also look at the wide receiver room in that franchise. No more Michael Pittman. Now in Pittsburgh. You have Josh Downs, Nick Westbrook-Akine, who was a former Tennessee Titan, Alec Pierce, who they decided to go with that guy instead of Pittman.
Yeah.
I think those guys are good, but not great to get them over the hump against a team like the Titans, who on paper look to be better than those other two teams.
I think there are a lot of games that look closer to 50-50 than in previous years, even if I wouldn't say the Titans are going to be favored. Like you mentioned Steelers. I think the Steelers is a definitely winnable game at home. I think the Commanders could be a winnable game. Can Jaden Daniels stay healthy? We don't really know, and they took a step back as a whole last year. Any of the divisional games, I know they didn't win any last year, but the divisional games are divisional games for a reason, right? Like good teams lose to bad teams, especially in the division all the time. On the road, it gets a little bit tougher. I think Cincinnati's going to be better this year. I think they kind of have to be, with Joe Burrow maybe not being super thrilled with the way the franchise has gone since they went to the Super Bowl. I do think Dallas is going to be better this year. I think Detroit will be back to being a playoff team this year. Vegas, I think if that game was at home, I would pick the Titans as the favorite. But, being on the road, I would guess the Raiders are a slight favorite in that game. But I do look and say there are a lot more games that I think the Titans will be competitive in this year. But in terms of games they are going to be the favorite, I really think it's only those two. I think it's Cleveland, New York.
Yeah. Again, some of those 50-50 games, I'm still leaning on the glass half full mentality.
Yeah.
I mean, I just looking on paper and just what they've done in the offseason, we're all in the market. You're just optimistic about the team. So I'm going to lean in the more 60-40 range for the Titans in those 50-50 games. Like looking for me at the Philadelphia game and Pittsburgh game, that's probably going to be the toughest test for Tennessee on defense, because those two teams are really good at game managing. We all know Philadelphia has kind of changed their philosophy when it comes to passing the ball down the field with a guy like A.J. Brown. You have Devontae Smith, who can get those contested catches. He's been in the league long enough to do so. But I see more of those guys as yak receivers, as guys you can get in the slot.
Yeah, Mekhi Lemon now.
Right. And so I'm intrigued to see what they do with the run game on that, because Jalen Hurts is still the quarterback. They're not going to throw the ball deep. I think that's one of his biggest flaws, is when he throws the ball deep, more than likely an interception is going to come.
Well, and we know the Titans have to take a step forward. So you're going to have to win some of these games that maybe you are not initially the favorite in. And we mentioned some of them, like Pittsburgh, I think is a great example. They're fine. They're solid, but it's not a Mike Tomlin team anymore. Aaron Rodgers seems like he's going to be back. He hasn't officially signed yet, but I know Rappaport reported it's trending that way, as it has been for months. I think you need to win a couple of your divisional games. I agree with you. I think the Colts is probably the one that I look at the most favorably in terms of matchups. That Texans defense is going to be really good again. They had the best defensive line in football, and then used their first pick in the second round on another defensive tackle in Caden McDonald. I don't know what the Jaguars are going to be this year. I feel like that's always the case with them. They're an enigma. But you're going to have to win some of these quote unquote toss-up games. Giants, Raiders, the divisional games, the Commanders, the Steelers. If you can win half of those games, that probably gets you to a 6 or 7 win season, which I think is what everybody expects. Now, could you win more of them? Sure. Could you win less of them? Yeah. I just look at this schedule and say, yes, it looks easier, but the Titans are still not going to be the favorite heading into a whole lot of these, if any.
Yeah. I mean, again, my optimistic mindset, I'm in the idea of this team wins 9 games. I really am.
You think 9?
I'm sticking with, and this was even before Saleh was hired on. I think you got to win 6 of your games, right? For sure. You got to at least double the win total. I think with what they've brought in this offseason, you kind of have to give a little bit more than 6 wins. I mean, the expectation is rising as the offseason continues. You sign your rookie number 4 overall pick to a fully guaranteed rookie deal. To me, that's just showing there is promise and confidence, like I mentioned in the first hour, that you kind of have to see a little bit more than 6 wins.
And we've seen it before, right? Look back a decade. Titans 2014, 2015 won a total of 5 games. Right. Then they won 9 games in 2016, even though they missed out on the playoffs. So it's been done before, to go from the cellar dweller for a couple of seasons and get back to being an average to above average team quickly. I just don't know if I can expect that. I think they're going to win some of those toss-up games, but if you're saying that you're winning 9, that yeah, you probably have to beat half your divisional opponents, like go 3-3 in the division, beat the Browns, beat the Jets, that's 5, beat the Giants, beat the Raiders, that's 7. And then you've got to win 2 out of the Eagles, Steelers, Commanders, Ravens, Bengals, Cowboys, Lions, which, I would probably say they may not win any of those games, but could they win 1 or 2? Maybe. I think 7 wins would be my expectation for this season.
Yeah, I mean that does play. Yeah, I'd say 7 is realistic, but maybe it's a 7 to 9.
I
don't know.
I appreciate the optimism. We
Can't
need
help
some of
it.
that around here after 2, 3 and a half straight horrible seasons for this team.
I mean, you see a smile on my face. I can't help but be optimistic, Jake. I can't help it, man.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll keep talking schedule when we come back. We got a couple more segments. We'll take your thoughts as well on our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. 30 more minutes on the show today. Chase and Big Joe are coming up at the top of the hour. We're going through the possibilities for the Titans schedule. NFL schedule release is coming up on Thursday. We will find out when. I guess we kind of know where. Although, have they announced all the international games yet?
I don't think so.
I don't believe we've gotten all of them. Possible chance the Titans end up across the pond again.
Wouldn't mind it. I mean, if it was in Australia, that'd be pretty cool, but that's not happening.
What was the last one? Was it the Ravens in 23 when Tannehill got hurt?
With Malik Willis.
Because they've only gone twice to international. The first one was the Chargers game in 18 where Vrabel went for 2 at the end and lost. And then, the game Tannehill got hurt. So they might be due for another trip over there. I've seen some of the games have been announced. Like I think they announced one of the games in Munich. I'm sure the Jaguars are playing a couple of games in London again. Of course, the Melbourne, Australia game, the Rams and 49ers, which I'm sure everybody...
The London Jaguars.
Yes, the London Jaguars. We've gotten a couple of games that have started to trickle out there. We mentioned Cowboys and Giants, week 1. Sunday Night Football, as the whole NFL world wants, is the Cowboys and Giants in primetime. Cowboys also hosting the Eagles on Thanksgiving Day. There was a chance, I guess there's still a chance the Titans could play on Thanksgiving.
Possibility. I'm just glad that they got the Giants and Cowboys out of the way for Thanksgiving. I don't want to watch that on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's always the go-to thing. I'm sure the Cowboys will be playing on Thanksgiving.
Well, they are. They're playing the Eagles. We know that one.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
The Cowboys have to play on Thanksgiving.
The Cowboys and Lions play at home every year on Thanksgiving. The Titans play both of those teams on the road this year. Could we get the Titans on Thanksgiving in Detroit, like the Smash and Dash feast of 2008?
I think it was Carl Klug that had the whole turkey trot thing, right? The defensive lineman, Carl Klug.
Yeah, that was a great day. I loved watching the Titans on Thanksgiving. It's crazy. It's been almost 20 years since that happened. The Lions will be going to Buffalo for Thursday Night Football in week 2. That is the opening of the new Highmark Stadium, the new Buffalo Stadium out there. So that'll be their christening of that building. We also know a couple of other games, Cowboys and Ravens in Rio in week 3. Week 1 Monday Night Football is Chiefs and Broncos. That should be a fun game. And we're slowly getting more that are coming out there as well. So we'll have to see. I wouldn't hate if the Titans got an international game this year.
Yeah.
But I would guess that they would be the road team since they play 9 away games and 8 home games this year, because it would be tough to sell season ticket members on, hey, you're only getting 7 regular season games this season.
Yeah, I just typed it on NFL's website, and it has all the international games there. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 games where they don't have an opponent. All these opponents would be away teams. So, I mean, 2 of them are Jacksonville. So, Jacksonville, that could be a possibility in London, like y'all are talking about. But the other games, let's see, 2 against Jacksonville and London. Another London game with Washington without an opponent.
Are they the home team in that? Okay.
Yeah, all these that I'm listing off for home teams from what it reads on this
Titans
graphic.
could not play Washington there.
San Francisco and Mexico City. Let's see. The other one would be the Atlanta Falcons in Madrid.
Yeah, I don't have that one.
The Munich game is the Detroit Lions.
So could be there too.
There's a possibility on that one. And then the New Orleans Saints in Paris.
Okay. So if the Titans are playing internationally, it would likely be London against the Jaguars or Munich against the Lions.
That's what it says on this graph.
So
2026 international games on the NFL's website.
There you go. It's very possible, and we will find those out. I also saw that they're adding a whole bunch more Saturday games. I wanted to get Parker's thoughts on this. I guess the last 4 weeks now of the NFL season have Saturday games, which I like it. As soon as college football isn't playing every Saturday, load it up. Why not? But I'm sure that that's a little bit of a conflict there with once you get into the college football playoff games.
Oh, yeah, no, it drives me crazy because the NFL, we all know the NFL's king in this country, and I'm not here to bash the NFL, but it would be nice if they didn't try to conflict with college football because college football already does so much for the NFL. So if you stop playing your games after the college football season's done, you started playing on Saturdays, I'm fine with it. Just don't interfere. It's really not that hard.
Yeah.
I mean, would you have a problem if there was a noon game in the NFL on a Saturday and then the only other game in college football was Army Navy at 7:00? Would you have an issue with that?
No, as long as it doesn't interfere. Like,
Well,
I don't care if the NFL leads up into college football. I have no problem
So-
with that. Just don't make them the same time.
What frustrated me last year was basically college football put its 2 throwaway games on a Saturday because they knew that the NFL was going to be playing later that night, right? So they put the good games on Friday, right?
I believe so.
And then they said, all right, Saturday we're putting JMU and Oregon and what was the other one?
Tulane and Ole Miss.
Tulane and Ole Miss. And they're
Right.
like, and those are our Saturday games.
And that went up. I mean, Bears Packers was also that night. So we all know it was going to get more viewership.
Right.
But 2 years ago, when, SMU was playing Penn State, you had the Chiefs playing, I think it was the Raiders, so you have all
Right.
the, I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah, that first weekend of the college football playoff, it just gets busy. And
the NFL's wanting to play Monday through Sunday now. So
right, and they're putting everything on all the Netflix and Prime and Peacock and all that kind of stuff. So
That's why, like, when you look at the expansion of like a 24-team playoff, I know what NCAA and college football is trying to do. They're trying to get every single day to, like, if NFL is not playing on a Monday night, make sure Tuesday's a play-in game or whatever.
Right.
Like, it's getting a little frustrating because the product's getting diluted.
yep, and I don't think expansion is going to stop, and that
more
goes,
doesn't always equal better.
right. It goes for the playoff. They're going to expand that, but they're also going to keep expanding the days that the NFL is played on. Like Tuesday is the one day that seemingly has stayed sacred outside of the COVID season. I know that there were a few Tuesday games, including Titans spanking the Bills on a Tuesday back in October of 2020. But this year, is it every day is going to have at least one NFL game except for Tuesday?
I'd assume
Because they're
so.
playing a game on Wednesday in week
Yeah,
1.
to open the season.
Yeah.
Is that what?
I think it's either.
Seahawks. And Eagles.
So yeah,
Oh.
they're doing the Seahawks opener on Wednesday this year. And then the Melbourne game is going to be on Thursday.
Yeah, because they're 17 hours ahead. So if it's Thursday night, it'd be Friday at noon, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they have the Black Friday game now. So that's another day. And then, of course, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So, yeah, Tuesday is the only day that the NFL hasn't touched yet. And I'm sure that that's coming at some point.
Look, I know what Tuesday's for. It's for 1025 game.
It's for Tony Tuesday.
Well, not
yeah,
just-
that's true.
That's why they don't touch it.
Yeah, that's true.
Roger and I, we talk back and forth on Sunday. I'm like, look, let me go to church. Let's get this situated. I'm like, I appreciate it.
615-737-1025. Let's go to our phone lines. Ryan is called in. Ryan, thanks for calling. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Great show as usual.
Appreciate it. Thanks for listening.
I would definitely agree with you guys. If we can win 7 or 8 games, that'd be reasonable. If we won 9 or 10, we would be doing very well. So I'm already looking at next year's draft. We need to address the offensive line and then safety and corner. So I'm going to be watching a lot of college football to see who we can draft in next year's draft already.
Yeah, I hear you because I do agree with you. Offensive line and secondary are the two spots where you need to add more young talent at the top of drafts. So I definitely hear you there. I'm hoping that the fall is better this year, so we don't have to be talking about the draft all the way through the season like we have each of the past 2 years. But thanks for the call, Ryan. I agree.
Thanks, guys.
I think 7 or 8 wins would be I don't want to say it'd be a good season, but I think it would be a successful first season for Robert Saleh, showing that he can get this team back to being competitive, and then you try and put the team back into the playoffs in 2027. That's always been the timeline. We've said this for well over a year that Amy Adams-Strunk and this front office want the team to be playing as a playoff team heading into the new stadium. This is the year to ramp that up because if you're 4-13, there's not a whole lot of momentum. But even if you get to 7-10, I think that at least shows the fan base that the progress is starting and hopefully the team will be really good. Maybe not in 2027, but 2028 in the first few years of the new stadium.
Yeah, yesterday Connor and I were discussing just the Titans and their draft from last season before Saleh and Daboll got here, along with this year's draft. And I kind of mentioned that, you can't really put a timetable on last year's draft for guys like Femi Oladipo. Like, to me, I think the clock resets for a guy like that, especially for like Kevin Winston as well, because they're now under that solid umbrella of learning under him. Whereas for this draft they just had, the clock starts immediately. These have to be immediate, success rates in that regard. So you need to have a little bit of development from the last year's draft. And when you can do that, again, to your point, 7-10, quality year for a guy like Robert Saleh.
I would agree. In year one, Robert Saleh, I think, just has to prove that, he's not a guy who's going to just keep the status quo the same here. You cannot be picking in the top 5 next year. You've got to be, at the very least, a team that teams look at and say, hey, that team can beat us if they come in and play good football.
Yeah.
615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to chime in. Last call for the phones. We got one more segment on this Tuesday. We'll wrap up the show after this. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up. 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Wrapping up the show on this Tuesday. It's been fun being back. Show's flown by. I'm excited to have Corey Curtis in tomorrow. I guess, apparently things got wild while I was gone with Corey, as they tend to do.
That's a way to put it.
Interesting. There you go.
So we will have Corey Curtis in studio tomorrow. I'm excited for that. But wrapping up the show here, I wanted to get this text from Jeremy in Clarksville, because we were talking about the Titans in 2014, 2015. They won 5 games total. They ended up winning 9 games in 2016. And Jeremy in Clarksville says, people keep comparing the 2015 to 2016 season improvement to this year. The Titans added an offensive line in 2016. That was their upgrade. They didn't add 2 Pro Bowl linemen this year, unlike 2016. And I am looking at that line that they had. A large part of the improvement, of course, was Taylor Lewan developing. I think his third year in the league was much better than what we had seen previously. Jack Conklin was an all-pro as a rookie. I don't know if anyone would have expected him to be an all-pro heading into his rookie season. And then the interior of the offensive line, like, you added Ben Jones, who was kind of a relative unknown coming over from Houston, ended up being a great player. Your guards were Josh Klein and Quentin Spain. I believe Josh Klein might have been a waiver claim.
Potentially.
From the Patriots. I want to say he got cut and then came in and ended up being a really good player for a couple of years for the Titans. So I will agree with what Jeremy said. The offensive line's improvement was a huge part of why that team was better. But I wouldn't say that if you looked at that group heading into 2016, that you would have said, oh yeah, 100%, that team's going to be, that offensive line is going to be way better than it was a year before. Now, you did spend a first-round pick on a top 10 pick on Jack Conklin, so you thought he was going to be good. And you did give Ben Jones a decent contract in free agency. I think the way this offensive line improves the most is just J.C. Latham proving to be what you hoped he would be when you picked him 7th, right? Like, Jack Conklin became an all-pro in year 1. J.C. Latham has not become that guy yet. So I'm very interested to see if just the growth of some of the young guys on your line can lead to a similar jump like we saw 10 years ago.
Yeah, and you make a great point there with the age, because, again, he's only 23 years old. I feel like the leash is still a bit long for a guy like J.C. Latham. There is still room for development. And, again, as much as everybody wants to see the growth of Cam Ward, you got to see it from J.C. Latham first. You just have to.
There are so many big question marks on this team. And it's one of those things that you just don't know until you know. Until they get out there and the live bullets start flying and you actually start playing again, you just don't know. You can hope a whole lot. And a lot of that rests on the offensive side of the ball of you hope that Carnell Tate's a wide receiver 1, Cam Ward's your franchise quarterback, J.C. Latham is your franchise right tackle. Because getting those 3 spots solidified automatically makes your offense way better. Having a franchise quarterback and a wide receiver 1 and one of your tackle positions solidified for a decade makes your offense good for not just for 1 year, but for years. But they're all big ifs right now. And none of them, even though we've seen flashes from Ward and Latham at times, there's nothing that has shown us, yeah, those guys are solid, sign them to the extension today. That's why this year is so important for this Titans team, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and to bring in a different, player from a different position, and that's Nick Singleton. That's somebody that, to me, is a little bit undervalued when it comes to pass blocking. I think that's somebody that had a really good opportunity at Penn State. Yes, the rushing numbers, the touchdown numbers are all there. But again, this guy helped out in the passing game. When you have a quarterback like Drew Aller that relied on 2 different running backs and whatchamacallit?
Yeah, Singleton and Katron Allen.
Katron Allen, I was going to say Kavion Black, but Katron Allen, yeah. Those 2 together, you kind of, rotated them in the backfield. Now you kind of have that with this Titans backfield. Yes, Tyjae Spears not the best pass blocker. He's more your scat back out of the backfield where you hope to catch something there. Tony Pollard's more of your running back that is your bell cow in this situation. So always good, my fans behind the glass.
I see. You've got a crowd back there.
So I just, it's just something like that you got to keep an eye on when it comes to a guy like Nick Singleton.
Excited for the schedule release coming up on Thursday. We'll finally get to find out when and where. And excited for tomorrow. Corey Curtis going to be in with us at 9 a.m. for the full show. Nick Frazier, great having you on. It was great to be back.
Thank you for having me, and glad you're back, man.
We will do it again tomorrow, 9 a.m. with Corey Curtis. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next. Keep it right here on 102.5 The Game.